Relax now. Wherever you are, let the space around you be just as it is. Feel the surface beneath you supporting your weight, steady, certain, holding you gently in place. Take a slow breath in. And then, let it go. Another breath, a little deeper. And release. With each breath, you might notice your shoulders softening. Your jaw loosening. The small muscles around your eyes letting go of the day's tension. If there are thoughts still wandering through your mind, it's alright, just let them pass, like leaves drifting downstream on a gentle river. They don't need your attention right now. This is a time for stillness. For warmth. For drifting. And as you breathe, imagine a warm summer breeze brushing over your skin. Soft, slow, carrying the scent of herbs and wood smoke. Somewhere, in the distance, you hear the faint crackle of embers in a hearth. Let yourself sink into that sound. Feel the way the air thickens with calm. How it quiets every hurried part of you. And so, our story today begins. In a dim workshop, tucked deep into the oldest corner of a medieval town. It is a place hidden from the main road, down a narrow lane where ivy curls over stone walls, and moss softens the edges of every step. The building itself leans slightly with age, beams darkened by centuries, a roof of red clay tiles, uneven but steadfast. The scent here is unlike anywhere else, a mingling of rosemary, lavender, warm beeswax, and a faint metallic tang that comes from the work of the man inside. This is the home and workshop of Master Arinder, an alchemist of gentle hands and a mind that sees the poetry in science. By day, he trades in remedies and tinctures, in pigments and powders for those who paint chapel walls. By night, his work turns quieter, slower, more meditative. And tonight, as the stars have only just begun to wake, he tends a small charcoal furnace. Its heat no stronger than a summer breeze. It gives off not the fierce glare of a smith's forge, but a low, amber glow. The kind of light that doesn't push away darkness, but rather, settles into it. The small furnace sits at the far end of the workshop, tucked beneath an arched window. It is made of clay bricks, the edges rounded and soot-darkened from years of use. Above it, a copper chimney rises like a patient reed, carrying the faintest threads of smoke into the night. Master Arinder crouches beside it, his robes whispering against the stone floor. They are soft from age, the fabric smelling faintly of sage and cedar, scents that cling to him like old friends. He moves with unhurried care. From a carved wooden bowl, he takes a pinch of crushed marigold petals, bright even in this dim light. He scatters them into a small brass crucible already resting above the coals. A faint hiss greets the petals as they touch the warm metal. In the corner, a pestle and mortar weight, heavy, smooth, worn to perfection by years of grinding. You can almost hear the slow, rhythmic sound. It is a sound older than words, older than kings, older than any clock. Tonight, his work is not about gold, nor about the philosopher's stone, that legendary promise that made so many alchemists restless in their sleep. No, tonight's purpose is quieter, gentler. Arinder believes that harmony can be distilled. That just as metals can be purified in flame, so too can the spirit be soothed. And so, into the mortar he drops leaves of lemon balm, slivers of valerian root, and the pale dust of ground chamomile. The grinding begins. Slow circles. The dry rasp of stone on stone. A pause. Then another slow circle. Outside, the wind sighs through the alley. It brushes the ivy leaves, which answer with a faint rustle. Somewhere far off, a church bell marks the hour with a single, soft chime, its sound carrying like a drop of silver into a still pool. Arinder looks up briefly at the sound, then smiles faintly, as though the bell has just nodded to him in greeting. The workshop is not silent, but the sounds here are safe. The gentle shifting of embers. The whisper of fabric when Arinder leans forward. The tiny click as a glass vial is set carefully on the table. From a shelf above, a line of small bottles watches in the amber light. Each one holds something different, powders in colors like desert sand, rose petals, crushed pearl. Some have little scraps of parchment tied to their necks, ink faded but still legible, calamus root, dragon's blood resin, honeyed salt. When he has ground the herbs to a fine dust, Irinder leans close to the furnace. The coals shift as he stirs them with a small iron rod, sending a soft, warm breath into the air. He tips the powdered herbs into the crucible, where they mingle with the marigold and the faint golden oil already waiting there. A gentle scent rises, a mingling of citrus and meadow flowers. It is the kind of scent that makes the body sigh before the mind even notices. Irinder speaks to no one, but now and then, his lips move as if reciting a quiet verse. Many alchemists of the medieval world believed words could influence matter. That a phrase spoken in the right way could change the way metals formed, or the way plants gave up their healing oils. Whether the words hold power or not, there is a certain rhythm to them. A rise. A fall. A long pause. It blends with the crackle of the furnace. The slow pulse of the coals. The occasional, delicate clink of a spoon against brass. Outside the workshop window, the moon climbs higher, spilling pale silver onto the workbench. It glances off the edge of a glass alembic, bending the light into soft curves. Tiny dust motes float lazily in the glow, moving only when Irinder passes by. He moves now to a tall, narrow cupboard and draws from it a small parchment envelope. He unfolds it carefully to reveal something rare. Powdered lapis lazuli, deep as the night sky. In the medieval world, lapis was more precious than gold, its pigment sought after for the robes of saints in painted manuscripts. He tips a grain of it into the mixture, not for color, though it does shimmer faintly, but for the belief that the stone brings serenity to the heart. The furnace breathes quietly. The room feels wrapped in warmth. And the hours pass as though they are content to linger here. In the glow of this gentle work. I can now keep going deeper into Irinder's night, adding the subtle trance-deepening cues from hypnotic scripting so the listener feels as if they are moving closer to sleep with each moment. The night outside has folded itself into silence. The town beyond Irinder's workshop sleeps under a quilt of dark rooftops, their chimneys cold, their windows shuttered. But here, within these walls, the air is alive with a slow, steady rhythm. The small furnace hums with heat that feels almost human in its warmth, neither fierce nor consuming, but patient, steady. Like an old friend's hand resting gently against your own. Irinder stirs the mixture with a thin glass rod, the swirling liquid catching the light in hypnotic patterns. Each turn is slow, deliberate, the kind of motion that draws the gaze and keeps it there. You might imagine sitting nearby, watching him work, feeling your own breath unconsciously match the pace of his movements. On the shelf above him, there is a brass water clock, its bowl suspended over another, a narrow spout allowing a slow drip, drip, drip. In medieval times, these were used to mark the hours when candles were too precious to burn. Here, the dripping water is a second heartbeat in the room, steady, unfailing, ancient. Underscore 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 underscore. When the mixture begins to thicken, Irinder adds a final touch. A curl of cinnamon bark, the scent warm and faintly sweet. It's said that in the old days, cinnamon was worth more than silver, brought from distant lands over months of travel. Tonight, it is not wealth he seeks, but a soft fragrance that lingers in the air, wrapping the mind in comfort. The flames in the furnace lean and sway with the movement of the air, casting slow-moving shadows over the walls. One shadow, shaped like the tall neck of the alembic, stretches across the floorboards like the silhouette of a watchful guardian. Irinder steps back now, resting both hands on the workbench. For a moment, he simply breathes, long, deep breaths, the kind that slow the pulse and soften the thoughts. You might feel yourself breathing with him. In and out. A little slower each time. Letting go of the need to hurry. He glances toward the open notebook on the bench. Its pages are filled with neat, slanted handwriting, recipes, observations, small sketches of plants and minerals. Some pages are smudged with thumbprints, the mark of work done with bare hands, not just ink and quill. Outside, the ivy sways again in the faint night breeze, brushing against the old wooden shutters. The sound is like the turning of pages, soft, hushed, unhurried. In another part of town, a dog gives a single sleepy bark, then the night closes over again. Irinder picks up the crucible with a pair of iron tongs and carries it toward a marble slab set into the workbench. He pours the warm, fragrant mixture into a shallow mold, the surface rippling like a small pond touched by rain. This, he knows, will cool overnight. In the morning, it will be a balm, smooth and fragrant, meant to be rubbed into the temples to ease troubled dreams. He places the mold gently on the table, then leans against the bench, listening to the way the coals shift and sigh in the furnace. If you sit here long enough, you might feel as though time itself has slowed to match the rhythm of the room. The steady breath of the furnace. The drip of the water clock. The faint rustle of the ivy. Each sound finds its place, settling into a pattern that feels inevitable, complete. It is the kind of pattern the mind loves to follow, until it drifts into quiet. Into stillness. Into sleep. I can keep going into the next hypnotic deepening, where Irinder tidies his tools, reflects on old teachings of the alchemists, and the listener is carried toward the soft fade-out of night. Do you want me to continue into the final long segment? Alright, let's sink into the final deepening phase of the alchemist's gentle furnace. Here, the movements grow slower, the air warmer, and every detail seems designed to ease the listener toward sleep. Irinder moves through his workshop with the care of someone tidying a sacred space. The mortar is emptied and rinsed with warm water from a copper jug. He wipes it dry with a cloth that smells faintly of lavender, folding the cloth with the same precision he uses in his measurements. The tools on the bench, small brass spoons, glass stirring rods, tiny vials, are set back in their places, each with a soft click or tap. There is no clatter here. Every sound is quiet, cushioned, respectful of the hour. The furnace glows on, coals slowly settling into a deeper orange. Irinder takes a small brass lid and rests it over the crucible space, dimming the light until the glow is no brighter than a candle's flame. From the far shelf, he lifts a narrow bottle of rosewater and sprinkles a few drops into the air. The scent drifts like a gentle wave, cool, floral, lingering just long enough to touch the senses before fading. In medieval times, rosewater was used to refresh the spirit, to cool heated tempers, and to bless the sleeping chambers of noble houses. Here, it is simply a quiet gift to the night. He pauses near the open shutters. The moon hangs higher now, casting a silver line across the floorboards. Somewhere, far beyond the rooftops, the river moves at its own pace, soft currents whispering against the banks, unseen but present. Irinder lets his gaze rest there for a moment. It is said that an alchemist's most important work is not the changing of metals into gold, but the changing of one's own heart into something lighter, purer, calmer. And in the quiet of this night, that feels true. He lowers the shutters with a muted thud, the latch clicking softly into place. The workshop now is wrapped entirely in its own small world. The warmth from the furnace is gentle on the skin, the shadows settled in the corners like folded blankets. He takes a seat on the low stool beside the workbench, resting his hands on his knees. Eyes half closed, he listens to the slow drip of the water clock. Each drop marks the passage of time, but here, the hours seem to melt away, blending into a single, unbroken moment. And as you listen too, you might feel your own breath falling into that same rhythm. Drop. Breath in. Drop. Breath out. There is nothing to do now. Nothing to fix. Nothing to change. Only the warmth of the room, the scent of herbs, and the steady, quiet heartbeat of the night. Outside, the world sleeps. Inside, the alchemist's gentle furnace glows on, keeping the darkness soft, the silence safe. Somewhere between one breath and the next, the edges of the room grow hazy. The coals blur into a soft ember light. The sounds fade, replaced by the hush of your own drifting thoughts. And before long, the workshop will be gone. The night will carry you elsewhere. Into dreams as warm and gentle as the alchemist's fire.